Welcome to second session of drugs acting as anticoagulants. In last class we studied about parenteral anticoagulants, and in this session we will be discussing about oral anticoagulants. So to start with, we will be discussing about warfarin. So warfarin along with dicumarol is a coumarin derivative, and historically warfarin was used initially for as a rodenticide, and warfarin got its name from Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, and this arin is derived from coumarin. So, what will be the mechanism of action of warfarin? As heparin was inhibiting the inactivating the clotting factors which were already present in the plasma. So, heparin was inactivating the activated clotting factors that are already present in plasma. In contrast, warfarin inhibits the hepatic synthesis of vitamin K dependent clotting factors by inhibiting one enzyme. The name of the enzyme is VCOR, vitamin K epoxide reductase. The name of the enzyme is VCOR, vitamin K epoxide reductase, which is encoded by the gene VCORC1, vitamin K epoxide reductase complex 1. So by inhibiting this enzyme, warfarin is inhibiting the activation of vitamin K dependent clotting factors. And what are those? Those are clotting factors 2, 7, 9 and 10. So we will see the mechanism of action in detail, but the important point here is warfarin is inhibiting hepatic synthesis of vitamin K dependent clotting factors by inhibiting enzyme VCORC. Now its effect is not immediately produced. Why? Because the circulating clotting factors which are already activated needs to get depleted, then only the effect of warfarin can be produced, and this depletion will depend upon the elimination half-life of the clotting factors. So this elimination half-life of different clotting factors, the minimum half-life is of factor 7a, while the maximum is for factor 2a. So this is important. So around 4 to 5 days is required for complete elimination of factor 2. So the complete antithrombotic effect of warfarin takes around 4 to 5 days, while factor 7a has the half-life of around 6 hours. 6 hours. So the first parameter regarding the clotting time to increase will be it will affect mainly the extrinsic pathway. So what was that clotting time? It is prothrombin time. So as the first clotting factor to decrease is factor 7a, so this will impact the extrinsic pathway and thereby it will increase prothrombin time. So prothrombin time can be used as to monitor the effect of warfarin. You will see, and one parameter, secondary parameter derived from this prothrombin time is INR, and INR stands for International Normalized Ratio. And what is INR? INR is nothing but it is a ratio of prothrombin time of patient upon prothrombin time of reference times ISI. Prothrombin time of patient upon prothrombin time of reference times ISI, and ISI stands for International Sensitivity Index. So INR is a better parameter to monitor the effect of warfarin. And what is the normal range? Under normal circumstances, the therapeutic range of INR when we are giving warfarin is around 2 to 3, is around 2 to 3. So this is important. So we can see there is some delay in the effect of warfarin. Okay, so suppose a patient of deep vein thrombosis, suppose he requires anticoagulation. So what we will be doing, we will be first starting with the parenteral anticoagulants, because they will be acting very fast, like low molecular weight heparin or unfractioned heparin or fondaparinux. So we will be first using parenteral anticoagulants. Along with that, we will be giving warfarin, and we will continue giving this heparin derivatives for 4 to 5 days, and after that we will continue with only warfarin. By that time the effect of warfarin will come. So this is the importance of this point. Now warfarin is most commonly given through oral route, but it can be given via intravenous and rectal route also, but most commonly it is given through oral route. And this is the one of the few examples of the drugs that has 100% bioavailability even in oral route. Warfarin has very high plasma protein binding. So any drug which shows very high plasma protein binding is bound to have some drug interactions. So warfarin has many drug interactions. Example being, suppose we give another drug which has very high plasma protein binding like sulfonamides or phenytoin or aspirin, that giving that drug can displace warfarin from its binding site being albumin. Okay, so if we give sulfonamides together with warfarin, we have to reduce the dose of warfarin, otherwise there can be displacement reactions. So what will happen in displacement reaction? As warfarin gets displaced from its binding site, the plasma concentration of warfarin will increase. That will lead to increase in prothrombin time, and the chances of bleeding will also be increased. So in that case, we have to reduce the dose of warfarin. Also, there are many drug interactions in warfarin shown by warfarin. So one more drug interaction is with third generation cephalosporin. Cephalosporins are antibiotics, cell wall synthesis inhibitors. So third generation cephalosporin, what it is, a broad spectrum antibiotic. So it will eliminate the bacteria in the intestinal tract that produces vitamin K. So if we give cephalosporin, third generation cephalosporin, that will eliminate the bacteria which are present in intestinal tract, and that bacteria was synthesizing vitamin K, so that will reduce vitamin K levels. And also cephalosporin can directly inhibit this enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase. So giving cephalosporin along with warfarin will again increase the anticoagulant effect. So in that case also we have to reduce the warfarin dose. And also one drug, that is cholestyramine. Cholestyramine is a drug that is used in the treatment of hyperlipidemia. Cholestyramine binds to this warfarin in GI tract and decreases its absorption. In that case, the efficacy of or the effect of warfarin is reduced. So if we are giving cholestyramine and warfarin together, here we have to increase the dose of warfarin. So these are important drug interactions. Also, there can be food drug interaction with warfarin. Certain foods that are rich in vitamin K will again decrease the efficacy of warfarin, like broccoli and cabbage. Now, what are the indications of warfarin therapy? Warfarin can be used for both for prophylaxis and treatment of deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. So in case of deep vein thrombosis, As I already told you, we will start first with parenteral anticoagulant, that can be heparin, low molecular weight heparin or fondaparinux, and that is continued for at least 5 days. And after 5 days we will be withdrawing this parenteral anticoagulants and we will be continuing with warfarin. So the usual adult dose of warfarin is 2 to 5 milligram per day for the initial 5 days, which is followed by 1 to 10 milligram per day based on the INR measurements. This is important, the dose. And in case of elderly, we have to give a lower dose. We have to use a lower dose. And we can give warfarin for prevention of stroke, especially, although we usually use antiplatelets for this purpose, but warfarin can also be given, as in case of atrial fibrillation there can be systemic embolization. There also we can use warfarin, and also embolization in patients who are having mechanical heart valves. There also it is a drug of choice as a oral anticoagulant. So these are some of the indications of warfarin. Now coming to the adverse effects. So there are many adverse effects, but if the most common adverse effect will be bleeding, but if we keep INR between 2 to 3, then the risk of bleeding is less. Also regarding this therapeutic INR, in case of mechanical heart valves, the cutoff for INR is 2.5 to 3.5. So here we are using a higher INR, that is 2.5 to 3.5 in case of mechanical heart valve. So one of the important adverse effect is purple toe syndrome. So what is it? Actually, this purple toe syndrome is seen after few weeks. It is said around 3 to 8 weeks of initiation of warfarin, some people can have purple toe syndrome. In these patients, what happens? This purple toe syndrome is due to the lysis of emboli that can lead to cholesterol embolism. So in this purple toe syndrome, there can be lysis of thrombus that can lead to generation of cholesterol, and that cholesterol can cause embolism. So purple toe syndrome is attributed to that. And there can be skin necrosis. Now why there is skin necrosis in case of warfarin? Because we know that there were two important anticoagulants, endogenous anticoagulants, especially protein C. Protein C was also a vitamin K dependent clotting factor, anticoagulant, vitamin K dependent anticoagulant. So if we are inhibiting this enzyme, the levels of protein C will also reduce, thereby leading to increased hypercoagulable state. So it is said that after factor 7a, the shortest half-life for the factor is of protein C, around it is around 8 hours. So in the initial period when we are giving warfarin, there can be reduction in protein C levels, and we know that protein C is a endogenous anticoagulant. So if there are low levels of protein C, that can cause development of thrombi, and that can lead to skin necrosis. And warfarin is teratogenic, so use of warfarin as anticoagulant in pregnant females is contraindicated. There the drug of choice in pregnant females for anticoagulation will be heparin derivatives like high molecular weight heparin, then low molecular weight heparin, and fondaparinux. Those are the drug of choice. But why warfarin is contraindicated in pregnancy? Because it is a teratogenic drug. It can cause some bone deformities in the baby. Why? It is said that warfarin, this vitamin K has its effect on one bone protein, that is osteocalcin. So if we are giving vitamin K inhibitor like warfarin, that can cause some bone deformity. So this is important. So let us see the mechanism of action of warfarin in detail. So usually reduced form of vitamin K is required for activation of certain clotting factors. So reduced form of vitamin K is required for activation of certain clotting factors. Clotting factors 2, 7, 9, 10. That are vitamin K dependent clotting factors. For their activation, reduced form of vitamin K is required. And the process that is required, the enzyme that is required for the activation of these clotting factors is gamma glutamyl carboxylase. So this enzyme requires reduced form of vitamin K as a cofactor for its optimum activity. Now, from where the reduced form of vitamin K is derived? Actually, when reduced vitamin K undergoes this process, it gets converted from reduced vitamin K hydroquinone to oxidized vitamin K epoxide. So under the influence of enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase, this oxidized form of vitamin K gets converted back to its reduced form of vitamin K hydroquinone. So what warfarin does is that it inhibits this enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase enzyme, thereby it is inhibiting this pathway, that is vitamin K epoxide that is oxidized vitamin K epoxide is not able to get converted to its reduced vitamin K hydroquinone form. Thereby the activation of or gamma carboxylation of certain clotting factors is prevented. So one more thing here, we can see this warfarin is a racemic mixture of R warfarin and S warfarin. This S warfarin is more active form, which is inhibiting weaker enzyme more efficiently than R warfarin. S warfarin is metabolized by cytochrome P450 enzymes, that is CYP2C9, and any polymorphism in this enzyme will lead to will alter the effects of warfarin. So if there is a polymorphism in CYP2C9 enzyme, this will decrease its efficacy, or the effect of CYP2C9 will decrease, leading to decrease in the metabolism of warfarin, and the plasma concentration of warfarin will rise. Similarly, there is one polymorphism in this enzyme, that is vitamin K reductase enzyme, and if this polymorphism takes place, then the susceptibility of this vitamin K epoxide reductase enzyme to warfarin increases. Okay, so the net effect will increase. So any polymorphism in any of these enzymes, that is CYP2C9 or vitamin K reductase enzyme, will lead to increase anticoagulant effect of warfarin. So in both the cases we have to reduce the dose of warfarin. So this is important regarding mechanism of action. So the thing which I was telling you, polymorphism in warfarin. So there can be polymorphism in any of these two enzymes, CYP2C9 or VCOR-C1, as VCOR-C1 is related to effect. So this will lead to this will affect warfarin pharmacodynamics, while CYP2C9 was involved in the metabolism process, so it will affect warfarin pharmacokinetics. So in both the cases we have to reduce the warfarin dose. If the patient is experiencing polymorphism, then we have to reduce the dose of warfarin. This is the clinical importance of these two enzymes. Now, this is actually the cutaneous necrosis which was seen in one patient who was having this warfarin therapy, and usually this appears after 3 to 5 days of initiation of treatment. And we can see here there are bilateral areas of cutaneous infarction in the breast, and it is seen on the 5th day of warfarin therapy. So I told you it is basically due to low levels of protein C. As soon as we start warfarin, and protein C is also a vitamin K dependent factor, and we know that warfarin decreases the enzyme, it decreases vitamin K levels, so thereby it can cause skin necrosis. And usually this warfarin induced skin necrosis involves extremities, but can also occur in breast and in adipose tissue and also in penis. So these are the sites where cutaneous necrosis can be seen due to warfarin. So how can we prevent this? We can add heparin with warfarin. When we are starting anticoagulation therapy, we can give heparin along with warfarin, so thereby it will decrease the incidence of cutaneous necrosis. Now there are certain new oral anticoagulants. Those are also called as novel oral anticoagulants, and we have classified them. These are direct thrombin inhibitors like dabigatran and zimelagatran. It will directly inhibit factor 2A. In last class we studied about direct thrombin inhibitors. Those were parenteral, and these are oral direct thrombin inhibitors like dabigatran and zimelagatran. We also have direct factor 10A inhibitors. They will inhibit factor 10A like rivaroxaban and apixaban. In both the cases, this thrombin generation is being affected or decreased, leading to its anticoagulant effect. So they are now the drug of choice for prophylaxis of thrombosis in case of atrial fibrillation. Remember one thing, that these agents are not given for thromboembolism occurring in case due to mechanical heart valve. There we will be using warfarin only. In fact, they are contraindicated there. So benefit is that they do not require any coagulation monitoring. So no thrombin or INR monitoring is required for them. And also we have specific antidote for both of them. We will discuss that. So what are the advantages of novel oral anticoagulants over warfarin? Is that convenience of once or twice daily oral dosing, and also lack of monitoring, that is no need to monitor their therapy by doing PT or INR. And also we saw warfarin had many drug and food drug interactions. Warfarin had many drug and food drug interactions, but here there are very few, so they are preferred. Only in case of mechanical heart valve, there we won't be using them, there we will be using warfarin. So now coming to the reversal agents for direct oral anticoagulants. So why we will need reversal agents? Because life-threatening bleeding can occur if we give if we use overdose of these agents. Then there we have to use reversal agents for preventing the life-threatening bleeding. So drug of choice for reversing dabigatran effect is idarucizumab. Idarucizumab. It is a monoclonal antibody that binds with dabigatran and forms a inactive complex. and that complex is excreted through the kidney, thereby lowering the levels of dabigatran, plasma levels of dabigatran. One more drug which is in phase 3 trial right now is Adexanet alpha. Adexanet alpha is again this X. Adexanet alpha is reversal agent for rivaroxaban, that is factor 10 inhibitors, rivaroxaban, apixaban, and edoxaban. So Adexanet alpha, it is right now in phase 3 of clinical trial. So one more reversal agent, siraparantag. Siraparantag is a potential reversal agent for all of the direct anticoagulants, and it is said that it can bind dabigatran, rivaroxaban, apixaban, and edoxaban, as well as heparin and low molecular weight heparin. So it holds some potential for in future that it can be the drug of choice for treating overdose with these agents. But right now it is in early phase 1 clinical trial. So suppose we don't have any of these agents. So in case of non-availability of these specific reversal agents, what we can do? We can give prothrombin complex concentrate, or we can use activated prothrombin complex concentrate, and we can also use recombinant factor 7A. Hemodialysis is only reserved for dabigatran because other agents are binding the plasma protein very avidly, very strongly. So hemodialysis is only reserved for dabigatran. Now coming to the reversal agents for heparin and warfarin, we have specific antidote for heparin overdose, and the drug is protamine sulfate. We already know that heparin is a organic acid. It is negatively charged organic acid, while protamine sulfate is derived from fish sperm and is rich in arginine. Arginine is a basic in nature, and also protamine sulfate is positive in charge. So there will be a chemical antagonism between protamine sulfate and heparin. So it is said that 100 units of heparin can be neutralized by using 1 milligram of protamine sulfate. In case of low molecular weight heparin, the neutralization is often incomplete. There it is said that 1 milligram of protamine sulfate is able to partially neutralize 1 milligram of enoxaparin. So there the neutralization is incomplete, and in case of fondaparinux, protamine sulfate is not effective. Now coming to warfarin. In case of warfarin overdose, the specific antidote is vitamin K. How it will act? It will increase the synthesis of clotting factors, hepatic synthesis of clotting factors, but problem is that it has slow onset of action. So the onset of action will be slow. In case of, if INR is more than equal to 10, we have to give vitamin K1 at a dose of 2.5 to 5 milligrams, and if INR is more than 20, here we have to give fresh frozen plasma. Fresh frozen plasma will act rapidly, and in case of INR more than 20, we have to use FFP. As I just now mentioned that vitamin K effect is slow, so for immediate effect we have this 4-FPCC, that is 4 factor prothrombin complex concentrate, and it is composed of clotting factors like 2, 7, 9, 10 and protein C and S. So all vitamin K dependent clotting factors are there in this, and usually it is given with vitamin K1, the dose being 10 milligram intravenously of vitamin K. So, but the problem with the patients who receive high doses of vitamin K1 is that they may become unresponsive to warfarin for several days for obvious reason, because we are inhibiting the action of warfarin by giving vitamin K. So the patient will can become unresponsive to warfarin therapy for few days. So this is important. This is all about oral anticoagulants. Now this diagram here we are just revising the different mechanism of action of oral anticoagulants. Those are coumarins versus parenteral like heparin. So here we can see that coumarins are decreasing the synthesis of factor 27910, while heparin is by binding to antithrombin, it is inactivating factors like this, and it is binding to 2A and it is inactivating that 11A, 9A and 10A, and also thrombin. So it is inhibiting the activated, it is neutralizing the activated clotting factor. So this is just a quick revision, and both of these agents are ultimately decreasing the levels of thrombin and thereby preventing the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. Now here we have summarized some of the clinical uses of anticoagulants. It is said that heparin, we will start with the heparin is used for initiation of anticoagulation, while warfarin or oral anticoagulants are mainly given for maintenance of anticoagulation. And the indications we know, we have already done that. In case of ST elevation MI, we can combine heparin with aspirin here. Okay, so most of the thing, and in case of mechanical heart valve or prosthetic heart valves, we won't be giving oral anticoagulants. Here we won't be using newer oral anticoagulants. Here we will be using warfarin. The drug of choice will be warfarin. So this finishes anticoagulants.